If a hostile nation dumped raw sewage, toxic waste, and biological contaminants into American territory every single day, what would we call that? If US Navy SEALs were getting sick, if Border Patrol agents couldn't breathe, if beaches were shut down for months, even years, because the water was too dangerous to touch, what would you call that? Because right now, that's exactly what's happening on American soil. Every single day, Mexico is sending hundreds of thousands of gallons of untreated sewage across the border through the Tijuana River. And it's not a secret. The US government knows, the Mexican government knows, and the flow hasn't stopped. In fact, it's gotten worse. This isn't new. This isn't accidental. And after decades of fixes, funding, and promises, it's still happening. Today we're digging into the story no one in Washington wants to touch, the Tijuana River sewage crisis, and what it really means when one country poisons another. This isn't a new problem. The first signs of sewage flowing into California from Mexico showed up in the 1930s. That's how long this has been happening. But the flood didn't really start until the 1970s. That's when Tijuana's population exploded. But its sewage system didn't. As a result, millions of gallons of untreated waste, domestic and industrial, poured straight into the Tijuana River. And that river? It flows north, right into the United States. In 1990, the US and Mexico signed an agreement. Funding was promised, solutions were mapped out, yet the sewage kept coming. In 2000, the US built the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant to try and filter the mess. It helped, for a while, but by 2018, the dam broke again, figuratively and literally. That year alone, over 13 billion gallons of raw sewage flowed into Southern California, and in the years that followed, that number would balloon. By 2023, beaches in San Diego County had been closed for over 700 consecutive days. Let that sink in. Nearly 2 years of coastline unusable in the United States of America. And in 2024, the Biden administration pledged $300 million to stop the pollution. But today, in 2025, the beaches are still closed, the river still runs black, and the air still burns your lungs when the wind shifts inland. Every year the numbers get worse. Every year someone promises it'll stop, it never does. So, the obvious question is, why? It's been almost 100 years. Every administration has known about it. Every Mexican government has acknowledged it. Every mayor, senator, EPA official, and cross-border commission has taken a photo near the river. They've held summits, signed agreements, promised change. Everyone knows. The US knows, Mexico knows, the Navy knows, the EPA knows, DHS knows. This is not a secret, so why hasn't it stopped? For Mexico, the excuse has always been the same. We don't have the money. Our infrastructure is overwhelmed. Tijuana is growing too fast. But Tijuana also has resorts, hotels, shopping malls, casinos, a booming economy just 20 minutes south of San Diego. There's no shortage of development when it comes to tourism, but when it comes to building working sewage plants, replacing crumbling pipes, keeping raw waste from flowing into another sovereign nation, suddenly, there's nothing they can do. And here's the reality no one says out loud. It benefits them when it crosses the border. If it stays in Tijuana, it creates a health crisis, protests, political fallout. But if it moves north into California, it's America's problem. From the US side, it's not incompetence, it's cowardice. There's always a task force, always a new grant, always some statement about cross-border cooperation. In 2024, the Biden administration promised $300 million to fix it. That was on top of the $66 million promised by Congress in 2020. There are pipelines that were built, treatment plants that were upgraded, and yet the problem may be worse than ever. No one wants to demand accountability, because doing that would mean admitting this is no longer an accident, it's neglect. Deliberate, sustained neglect. Let's flip the script. Imagine sewage from San Diego flowed into Mexico. Imagine Americans dumped untreated waste into Tijuana's streets. Would the Mexican government shrug it off? Would their media stay quiet? Would they wait 90 years for us to fix it? Of course not. But, for some reason, when it's flowing into America, into our homes, our beaches, our military bases, we're told to be patient, to understand the complexities, to fund another binational committee and hope this time it works. At some point, you have to stop calling it mismanagement, and start asking, is this allowed to continue because Mexico wants it to? So what has this neglect actually done? Let's start with the basics. Air you can't breathe, water you can't touch, beaches you can't visit. For the residents of Imperial Beach, San Isidro, Chula Vista, and even parts of Coronado, this isn't an environmental crisis, it's a daily health threat. People aren't just avoiding the ocean, they're getting sick in their homes. When the wind blows inland, it carries with it airborne particles from the contaminated water, sewage, mist, industrial waste, even trace chemicals that aren't fully identified. People have reported burning eyes, migraines, nausea, respiratory problems, even vomiting, just from breathing. Hospitals in the region have logged spikes in gastrointestinal infections, rashes, staph outbreaks, and respiratory distress. Children are missing school. Elderly residents are afraid to open their windows. Local businesses, surf shops, beach rentals, small restaurants have seen years of economic erosion, not from inflation or market downturns but from toxicity. Then there's the military. The US Navy SEALs train right here, on these beaches, in this water. In 2023, instructors had to pull candidates mid-exercise when several began coughing up blood and experiencing shortness of breath. Military medics traced the illness back to exposure, direct contact with polluted water. Border Patrol agents have also reported chronic illness, headaches, lung damage, skin infections. Some have had to transfer posts entirely just to recover. We're talking about US federal personnel, sickened by toxic exposure, not from war zones overseas, but from American soil. Imperial Beach has been closed for swimming more than 300 days a year for the last 3 years. That's an admission. We can't protect you from what's in the water. The United States of America can't keep its own coastline safe from biological waste, dumped by a neighboring country we call an ally. Think about what that says. We have the most powerful military on Earth, the most advanced environmental agencies, hundreds of millions of dollars allocated, and yet, families can't walk barefoot on the beach without risking an infection. If that's not a national embarrassment, what is? Could it be an act of warfare? Think about what we've allowed here. We're not just talking about beach closures or bad smells. This is biological exposure to US military personnel, border agents, children, civilians, on American soil. We're watching our most elite war fighters, Navy SEALs, get sick during training, not in Afghanistan or the South China Sea, but in California. We assume Mexico has good intentions. We assume they're doing their best. But the sewage keeps flowing, the illnesses keep mounting, and no one, not a single official on their side, has made it stop. We're watching Border Patrol agents miss shifts, take medical leave, suffer long-term damage, not from drug cartels or armed incursions, but from the water. Our water. So maybe it's time to ask a harder question. If another country is poisoning your people, your troops, your borders, and they know it, and they keep doing it, what do you call that? Because we've spent decades chalking this up to incompetence. We've written checks, held hands, formed joint task forces, and nothing changes. Meanwhile, America bleeds, slowly, quietly, chemically. And we pretend it's not happening because it's not bombs or bullets. But if the result is the same, if our service members are getting sick, if our citizens are exposed, if our sovereignty is being violated every single day, does the method really matter? Maybe it's time to stop debating the term "I" and start facing the truth. So, is this chemical warfare? We're not here to make that call for you, but tell us what you think in the comments below. And if this made you think, you know what to do. Subscribe so we can keep dragging stories like this into the light.